Welcome to the Inner Champion podcast. My name is Maxine Noel, former international athlete, now NLP certified coach. My mission is to help athletes and professionals get out of their own way, ditch the idea of perfection, and optimize their true potential. In this podcast, we will talk about mindset, emotions, self-actualization, self-confidence, performance, authenticity, and much more. So if you're ready to start this journey with me, well, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Inner Champion podcast. It's been a little while. I'm so happy to be back with this subject today, which is ego versus inner champion. And this subject, actually both concept, is something that I do talk about a lot with my clients, and even for myself, it is something that I use to better understand my mind and to help me just go through any obstacles, go through any fears, and be able to do whatever I want to do instead of feeling overwhelmed by my thoughts, overwhelmed by my mind. And so today I want to explain to you this concept of the ego and the inner champion, and hopefully that will help you have a better relationship with your mind and help you not feeling overwhelmed by it or even stopped by it from doing anything that you want. So let's get started. As you know, in our mind, we do have thoughts. Surprise. We do hear different type of thoughts throughout the day. I think there's I don't know how many thoughts we have in a day. It is crazy, but the same one do repeat every single day as well. So what we have to know is sometimes, nice messages at the same time. All right. So what we have to know is that these thoughts, first of all, they're not us. They are information, communication going through our mind, okay? Going through our mind, and we have the choice to give it attention or not, to focus on it or not. But most of the time, and it becomes a reflex, like it's something unconscious, we bring our attention to a thought and we just believe it. And then we state it as a fact. And from there, it becomes our reality. Sometimes these thoughts are pretty negative, and I will say quote unquote negative because it depends on everybody what it means. Thoughts are just thoughts. So but it depends on the effect it has on you. So sometimes our attention is brought to a specific thought. Maybe you're telling yourself, what if this doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I get disappointed? Blah, blah, blah. And obviously when you have this type of thought, you feel a certain way. You feel afraid, scared, angry. You feel overwhelmed, pressured, anxious, etc., etc. On the other hand, we have other thoughts that makes us feel better. Other thoughts that make us feel like, oh, I know I can do that. I've done it before. It's going to be fine. Oh, I'm doing so good. This is great. With these thoughts, we feel more powerful, even proud or confident. So when we understand that thoughts are just thoughts going through our mind, like clouds in the sky that we get, that we notice, and we can bring our attention back to ourselves and bring our attention back to another thought, we have the power to choose which thought will become our reality. And this is when the ego and the inner champion comes in, because I love to make it, easier to visualize or to see or to understand who is talking to you at this moment. I like to see it as a person talking to you in your mind and not just you talking to yourself. So I like to say that the thoughts that are, I would say, quote unquote, negative are the one coming from your ego. So your ego, his job is to make sure that you are safe. Nothing bad's going to happen to you. Want to make sure that you do not suffer, that you do not feel pain, that you don't get hurt. And his way of doing so, making sure that you do not feel pain, is by telling you what you should not do, what you should avoid, or even worst case scenarios. What can happen that might bring you pain that you should avoid? So all the thoughts about fear Every single thoughts that are coming from fear, they come from the ego. On the other hand, you have all these thoughts that are more empowering, that make you feel more confident. These are the thoughts coming from your inner champion, this part of you that knows, that trusts, that have faith into what's possible, that actually is brave enough to believe in a better outcome. When the ego has a hard time believing that things will turn right, it prefers to tell you that there might be a chance that things will not go your way, so better not do it, just in case. And we tend to focus on this voice more because obviously as humans, we do not want to feel pain. There's a part of us that believe that we cannot get back from pain. Resilient. Are we resilient enough? So this is a concept also to understand that, first of all, what we are most afraid of is an emotion. We are afraid to feel pain, to feel the disappointment, to feel like hurt inside of us. And because of that, we tend to avoid things or not take action because we want to make sure that this will not happen, even though there's still a chance that it turns out great, it turns out fine. So if I just take the example of competing at a tournament, as an athlete, you compete at a tournament, yes, there's a chance that you lose, and there's also a chance that you win. But most of the time, we focus on, what if I lose? What if I have a blank? What if this other person, my opponent, is better than me? What if the judge is not voting for me? What if I fail? What if I get hurt? What if? And our mind tells us that because it wants to make sure that we know the dangers that we might encounter, that we're not totally in the unknown. But is it really serving us to think this way, or to actually believe and feel the fear? Or doesn't it just make us stay in fear, actually? Another thing that you have to understand is these thoughts will not go away with time. My goal here is not to tell you to stop thinking about this. This will not happen. However, with time, you can practice and be better at not paying attention to these thoughts as much, and bring your focus back to the better thoughts, the thoughts that are actually helping you more than the thoughts that are limiting you. So imagine if you're able to recognize and notice the thoughts that are not helpful in your head, the thoughts, the what if scenarios, the dangers or whatever, and you choose consciously to bring your attention back to what can actually go right in this situation. What if this actually goes right? What if I'm able to win? What if I'm able to do a good move? What if I'm faster? What if things turns right in my favor? And when you think this way, you feel differently in your body. Like I said earlier, your body will feel probably less tense. You will feel more confident. You will walk in a way that makes you feel better in your whole body. You will generate even more positive thought just because of that, because the mind and the body are connected together. So if you feel good in your body, this will reinforce the positive thought, and you will have more positive thought coming in. Same thing happened with the negative thought, the limiting one. The more you think about the limiting one, the more you give power to it, the more you feel tense in your body, you feel anxious, pressure, not good. Well, this will reinforce the negative thoughts. Like, you see, you don't feel good right now. You're stressed. Why you're stressed? You should not be stressed. It's not a good thing. We should not feel this way. We're going to be slow. It's not going to happen. It's going to be bad. Blah, 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 blah. So, one analogy that I use a lot is you are the driver of your own car. Okay? As you are behind the wheel. And you decide where you want to go. And on your side, on the passenger side, oh my God, I don't know how to say this word. Passenger side, I think it's that. Next to you, I will say that. Wow, that was hard. Next to you, you have either your inner champion or your ego telling you or advising you where to go. Again, the choice goes back to you. You're the one choosing who you're listening to. You might choose to have your inner champion next to you and believe in his advice and follow them and get to where you want, or you might have your ego next to you telling you all these bad things that can happen, and because you're in fear, you change the direction of the car and you go somewhere else that you don't necessarily want to go to, but because you're listening and giving attention to the ego, you're going there anyway. Just know that you cannot kick the ego out of your car, okay? He belongs in your head. He is in there because he has a really specific job. He is not a bad thing. He's not something to suppress. The ego can be really useful when we learn to have a good relationship with. The ego can be a really good ally when we know how to talk with it. So when the ego tells you all these things that can happen that are maybe not so good, that are limiting, that are scary, listen to it. Don't try to avoid, deny it. That's not going to work because the ego is going to scream and yell at you, even louder than it is actually already doing. The more you deny it, the more you don't want it to be there, the more it's going to overwhelm you with his thought, with his voice, or what it's trying to tell you. So, the way to deal with it is actually having a better relationship with it. By first of all listening to it, hear what it has to say to you, and telling it that everything's going to be okay. You have to reassure this voice. You have to comfort your ego. Your ego is like a kid who just wants you to be safe. It just wants you to be safe. It just wants you to feel good. His goal is the same as the inner ego, as the inner champion. They have the same objective at the end of the day. They want the same thing for you. They want the best for you. But they have a different way of showing it to you or doing it. So the ego is way of making sure you're having a good life is by keeping you in your comfort zone, which is not the most beneficial thing if you want to achieve big things, because at some point you have to get uncomfortable. You have to feel the discomfort. You have to get out of that comfort zone to achieve what you truly want in this life. You have to face the unknown. So you have to be able to comfort and reassure this voice inside of you by knowing deep down that things going to be all right. Having faith, trusting that things going to turn out well, and keep reassuring the voice whenever it comes up. Then, like I say, you cannot kick out the ego. You cannot kick the ego out of the car, but you can bring it or invite it to stay and to sit in your back seat instead of being next to you. And just bring your inner champion next to you. And when you listen to your inner champion, it is this voice, your intuition, I would say it like that, that knows what's best, what's good, what to believe in. So some would say this is your heart talking to you. This is this part of you that has a deeper knowing of things. And it is really reassuring. Feels really good to hear its voice. It feels calm. It feels peaceful. You know when it's your inner champion talking, when it's a clear yes or no. I want to do this. I don't want to do this. On the other hand, when you think about your ego, it's more about, I must do this. I have to do this. Oh my God. You know, like this anxious voice, overwhelmed voice. Contrary to the inner champion that is really calm, really peaceful. No biggie. Like it's just relaxed. This is how we know who's talking to you. And from there, you have the choice to listen to whoever you want, to take in consideration the words of one of the other. But just know that this is a practice to notice who's talking to you at this moment. Is it your inner champion or it is your ego that is talking to you? And one exercise that I love to share with my clients is personalize these voice. Like describe these voice. How do they look like? Your inner champion, how do it look like? Same thing for your ego. Describe it physically. How does it look like? How does it sound in your head? How does it make you feel? So you know exactly when you put them as character, who they are. And it's easier to choose who you're gonna listen to. So try it out. See for yourself. Maybe make a drawing or just journal about it. See who is talking to you in your head. And from there, you know that no matter what, you always have the choice to listen to the one that you want. Voila. So this is really the story about the inner champion and the ego. How they play a role in helping you and make you feel a certain way in your mind. I have another example for you on how you can reframe and reassure the ego. So for me, as an athlete, I used to be stressed as everybody else when I was about to compete. But I thought that was something bad. Actually, my ego was like, oh, you've been told that you should not be stressed. So therefore, if you're stressed, it is a bad thing. Why are you stressed? Why are we stressed? Oh my God, if we're stressed, it means that we're going to be slower. We're not going to move as fast. Our leg's going to be really heavy. And while I was listening to that voice and giving it attention, I would start feeling this way. I would start feeling really tense in my body. My legs will be really heavy. And I will believe that I was not as good or not as fast as my opponent. And therefore, I thought that was a really bad thing. I start changing the story by telling myself that actually, me being stressed is a good thing. It's a good thing because when I'm stressed, when I feel the stress, I feel the adrenaline in my body. I feel the energy running through my veins. It means that I'm ready to go. It's actually a sign that my body wants to compete, wants to perform. So therefore, I'm welcoming the stress. It's a good thing because I associated the stress with something that is helpful. And by doing that and saying that in my head, I am reassuring, I'm comforting my ego. And my ego is like, oh, all right then, so it's not a bad thing. Okay, so we're good. So it doesn't feel as stressed out or even anxious anymore. I'm not making it a big deal anymore. I'm seeing it as something helpful. And this is how changing the story and reframing the story is really helpful. This story is a story coming from the inner champion because the inner champion knows that everything that's happening in the moment is supposed to happen. It is good. As soon as we see it as something bad or not good, it's only then that we make it bigger than it is actually. So how can you reframe situations? How can you see situation as something good and not bad? And again, I feel that saying good and bad isn't the best thing. I would say, how can you change the story in something more helpful for you? How can you focus on the good side, on the helpful side, on the added value, the lesson behind this situation, so you make the best out of this situation? Reframing is a really, really, really big key. Super helpful. And I truly advise you to try it out. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned about the ego and our inner champion. And I invite you again to practice that on a daily basis, to just notice without having to change anything in the beginning, but just notice who's talking to you most of the time. Who are you listening to the most? Who's the person or the voice that is present most of the time in your head and that you're paying the most attention to? And from there, just know that you can always choose differently. Make another choice and hear another voice if you'd like to, and follow this voice. All right, guys, I wish you a beautiful day and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.